Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. The Alliance to Transform CalFresh is partnering with the California Department of Social Services to share about a number of new CalFresh data tools available for CalFresh stakeholders. For those of you unfamiliar with the Alliance, we are a group composed of 7 leading nonprofit organizations that have come together to move California's CalFresh participation rate to 80% overall, with no county below 70% by the end of 2019, in order to significantly reduce hunger in our state. Our main strategies include reducing churn, increasing dual enrollment, improving same-day service, and increasing equity in CalFresh. Our presenters will be sharing 3 new tools for exploring and making sense of the CalFresh data that is publicly available on the CDSS website. And all of the information we're sharing is important for the goals that the Alliance is working on as well. Next slide. The webinar will be recorded and made available on the Alliance website, and it will also be sent out to registrants afterwards. And you can ask questions throughout the webinar using the panel on the right side of your screen, and we'll review and answer questions at the end of the presentation. Next slide. Really quickly, we want to have a poll, and I'm going to open that now. Let us know if you represent a CalFresh administrator, an advocate, or an application assister, CDSS, or another entity. And give everybody another few seconds to reply. We've got a lot of our wonderful administrators with us, our advocates and application assisters, and our state partners, and a few other folks that we're happy to have with us today. Okay, so next slide. For today's webinar, first we are going to hear from Diana Jensen of the SF Marin Food Bank. And if you're on the call, if you could mute your line, that would be helpful, thank you. Diana has a county perspective, having previously worked for the San Francisco Human Services Agency. She also works with CDSS on projects related to the publicly available CalFresh data. And today she'll be providing a demo of a new tool she has developed to visualize CalFresh data with a county level perspective. Next, we'll have April Kellison from CDSS CalFresh Outreach to share 3 data visualization tools that CDSS has been developing in partnership with Sacramento State to unpack information from several aggregate CalFresh state reports. And then finally, Patrick Delaney from CDSS Research Services Bureau will share several new tools that are available in the state's CalFresh data dashboard. All of the tools being shared today, next slide, have one thing in common. They're all examples of what we can learn when we explore openly available data. All of the tools use data that you can find in these 2 locations on the CDSS website, the CalFresh Data Tables page and the CalFresh Resource Center data page. So without further ado, Diana Jensen is going to kick us off by giving a presentation of the SF Marin Food Bank's new county-focused CalFresh data visualization tool.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me, I hope?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to start by just a quick background. As Jen mentioned, we have been at the food bank always interested to explore the data that's available from CDSS that's publicly available, and we've done a variety of different data visualizations and sort of exploring what might be the most useful. And when, recently we decided to try to pack it together into something that would be useful to folks who kind of want to get a perspective on what's going on in a particular county. So what I'm going to do right now is, you'll see when we share out the presentation, you'll be able to, that it does include links to these resources. They're all available on Tableau Public. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the live page. And I'm going to show you, you should be able to see Jen, I don't know if you're unmuted, but can you just tell me, can you see my screen here?
Yeah, I can see the Tableau website with the charts and graphs you have on the summary page.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start by just sort of quickly showing folks what's in here. So this is Tableau Public. It allows us to make dashboards and to be able to filter and make various comparisons. So just as an overview of what's in here, we have 3 summary pages, and you can see the tabs at the top: summary page 1, 2, and 3. The first one is a summary that looks at participation metrics, and so here I've included San Francisco because we're from San Francisco Marin Food Bank. But I'll just show you, for example, if you wanted to switch and look at, say, Calaveras County, then I would choose there's 2 filters on this first page. So I would scroll down and unclick San Francisco and choose, wait for that to load, and then choose Calaveras County. If this is slow, I'll open it in another way. Hang on. Okay, since it's being slow, I will open it in another way. I knew this might happen. Hang on a second. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to show this here instead. Jen?
Yeah.
Can you still see my screen?
I can see it, but it looks like it's frozen.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, I'm going to try to change something. Tell me if you see it now. What does it look? What does the screen look like?
It looks the same. It has like a frozen loading circle.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Do you want me to switch over to my screen?
Yes.
Apologies, everyone, for the inner workings of the webinar. And it sounds like you guys could hear our planning as well. So, you know, you get to see how the sausage is made, as they say. Let's see. I'll put it on my screen. And okay. Can you see that?
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I'm just going to walk you through it. Okay.
Great. So I'm going to switch to another county.
Yep. Switch to another county.
Unclick San Francisco.
And then you had chosen Kings, so choose Kings again there.
Okay.
Okay. So this first summary page allows us to see program reach index for CalFresh, total CalFresh participants, some trends over time in Medi-Cal recipients. Now, Dan, if you can just hover over one of those charts to give an example of the kind of detail. So, here, if you hover over the chart, it will give you a little sentence that describes what the data is that you're looking at. So you can see here, it tells you what report quarter you're looking at and what the metric is. Now, if you click down to the bottom to summary page 2, down there you go, right there. The second summary page shows details about application outcomes and churn metrics. I'm not going to kind of dig into what all of the details of these things, because this is really sort of a how to find and load the tool session. But you can see here application outcomes. When you hover over there, it tells you all the information that's in that stacked bar. Same thing for average days to approve benefits. And at on each of these summary pages, up at the top, you can see it says counties, line and bar charts, and you could change which counties you're looking at here if you wanted to. You could add another county for comparison, and it would adjust the various charts accordingly. The third summary page includes information about, it sort of gives a summary of the impact that you might see. So again, we'll change to Kings County. If anyone from Kings County is on, we're not on the call. We're picking you at random. What this does is it shows you what is the relative impact of making a change in a particular area. So in other words, if we increase the number of applications that we receive in this county from the average rate over the last, say, 18 months to the maximum rate that they had in that period of time, what would the impact be to the CalFresh caseload? And similarly, if we were to shift from the average to the maximum approval rate for applications in that county, what would the impact be there? And then finally, if we were to reduce churn, the churn that we get from incomplete recertifications from the average rate to, in this case, bringing it down to the minimum rate, what would the impact be there? So each of the additional, so these are the top 3 summary pages. If you were kind of trying to get a big picture view of what's going on with sort of some of these key metrics in a particular county, you could have 3 pages that would kind of tell a big picture story. If you wanted to dig down into any of these particular topics, you can see down to the right there, there's additional dashboards for each of the topics. So for example, Jen, why don't we just click on one of those, like PRI. So here, rather than just having the one chart for PRI, this allows you to see the PRI in a few different ways. So you can see compared to the California rate. You can see here how the PRI is shifting over time, and what it looks like in the county maps. Down at the bottom, we can see for the most recent year that PRI is available, how all the counties look kind of lined up. Finally, at the bottom, you can see there are all these filters, and these filters are going to make adjustments to that bottom bar chart. So for example, if you just wanted to know about CalWin counties, you click on CalWin, and the bottom bar chart would just include that subset. Okay, so from here, Jen, let's see, is it possible to look back to the website version of this?
Let's see, yeah.
Yeah, to go there. Okay, I just want to show a couple more things here about ways that you can download this information. So if you want to download the whole workbook and be able to play with it the way that we just did, you click on that download tool. And I should say instructions for this are in the PowerPoint, the PowerPoint that we provided, so you don't need to take notes about this, but you click on that download. Oh, you want to show it in there, that's great.
Oh, you want me to do that?
That's, either way is fine. We can just have it for reference there.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's, so what we do is you click on the download icon, and then you have a few choices. So the one choice is you can click on the Tableau workbook, which is what Jen was just doing, and that allows you to download the whole thing, and you can open it in a program that's called Tableau Reader. It's a free program that you can install on your desktop, and it just allows you to open the whole workbook and be able to actively use the filters. So it's really great if you're going to have a presentation, let's say, or you're going to explore things as a group in your county, and you want to kind of just be able to play around and look at the charts with different filters on. That would probably be the best choice for that. You can also download things that you can print. So for example, if you click on image from download, it'll allow you to do a static image of whatever the current view is. And finally, downloading as a PDF is the most flexible. Actually, when I was preparing for this presentation, I discovered, I think this might be a new feature in Tableau. It allows you to, if you say PDF, then you can choose, it asks you, do you want to include this view, this chart? You have some choices there, and then, yeah, I think it would be helpful to do it there. So open it up. If you go to PDF, so click on this view. So then here you can choose, maybe you only want specific sheets from this dashboard. So like let's click on that one. and it'll tell you what the different names are, and you can select all or none, all or one of them. And if you can obviously, make your usual choices about whether you want it landscape or whatnot. And then it will create, based on what you choose, it will create charts that you can print. So you sort of play around to decide what works best for you in terms of like where you want to put things and how you want to share them. Okay, so let's see. I think that's most, folks may have questions that we can get to at the end, but that's sort of the big picture of what's here. I know, I think we can move on to looking at the, how CDSS is exploring some of the access report topics.
Great, and we have April Kellison from CDSS CalFresh Outreach.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, this is Brian Kaiser. I'm the Bureau Chief for CalFresh and Nutrition Programs Bureau here at CDSS. I just wanted to frame the next piece of our discussion, taking the work that Diana's been doing through the SF Marine Food Bank and as well as through Sac State University. We've been partnering with them to develop some visualization tools that can help make some of the raw administrative data that we receive each month from our counties that have been warehoused on our own CDSS website for years. We're trying to make those reports like the 296 and 256 a little more meaningful and usable, both for our internal program staff and also for all of our external partners. Today we're going to talk about 3 visualizations covering these 3 main topics. The first is for analyzing churn to better understand what may be causing people to cycle on and off CalFresh. Also analyzing application outcomes to better understand how county business processes or program instruction that we issue at CDSS may be impacting approval rates. And also analyzing discontinuances to better understand the reasons that people are leaving CalFresh. The monthly data that we receive from counties is presented over time and grouped by consortia or region, as you saw with Diana's presentation just before this. And that makes it possible to identify whether there are certain trends that are common to a particular area or consortia that merit more exploration. These visualizations that we're presenting here will ultimately be migrated over to the CDSS website. We're working right now to consolidate all of our raw data into a consolidated warehouse. For the next few months, it can be accessed through the links shown here on our presentation, but probably by the end of the year, we should have all of this housed in-house at CDSS, including some new visualizations as well. Now, April Kellison of our CalFresh Outreach team is going to walk you through some of these visualizations.
Hello again, everybody. So the 3 main topics that I'm gonna talk about today are churn, application outcomes, and discontinuances. So you can actually see that on the main page here. You could see where Diana Jensen went over the CalFresh data visualization tool, and then my 3 topics are going to be right here. So I'm going to go into the churn reports first. And each topic is going to have several tabs that show trends over time, county lineups, and comparisons to like counties. The graphs in these tabs are super interactive and customizable. So let's take a look at the churn. So there's 2 main sections in churn. There's recertification outcomes, which are listed right here. And then there's also the applications from churn, which are listed below. And then we also have the average application processing time for approved applications. It's titled Days to Approval. And then we have average time from notice of expiration to recertification is the last tab. So I'm going to move over to Recert Outcomes State. And what you'll see here is the recertification outcomes for June 2017. And so in the green, you'll see the recerts with CalFresh in the next month. you can click on this, and then you can highlight this as keep only if this is a variable that you want to look at, or you could just click it again and then just go back out. And then up in the gray here is the research without CalFresh in the next month. And this is actually pretty interesting to look at because, as you can see, there's major differences among the consortia, even compared to the state. And so, that begs the question, what are the processes that are unique to the consortia to cause the differences that we see here? And then when we move over to trends over time by consortia, you can see that this breaks it out by research with CalFresh in the next month. Recertifications due, no CalFresh in the next month, reapply within 30 days, reapply within 31 to 60 days, reapply within 61 to 90 days, and then no recertification within 90 days. And it's really important to note that nearly all the certification cases that reapply do so within 30 days. And then I also wanted to highlight what to notice. You'll see that on the bottom tabs, for most of the tabs, and they highlight like what I just talked about, that almost all cases reapply do so within 30 days, and fun facts like that. And then this has been very helpful for me is the undo and the redo button, and then also there's a reset, which is very helpful. So for example, if I wanted to highlight this and do keep only, and then I decided, nope, I don't want to do that anymore, hit the reset button and it all goes back to normal. So now I'm going to switch over to the churn data, which is right here. You can also find that in the drop-down menu right here. So from this, you can see that there's a more consistent measurement across the consortia. If you look at this right here in the orange, the salmon colored, the orange, and the beige, about 20% of all applications had benefits within the last 90 days. And then you can also see this broken out over time. So this starts in, need to see that, but it looks like 2012, and then it goes all the way to 2017. And on this next tab is where it gets really fun, because you can customize this how you want. You can look at consortia, you can look at the county size, you can look at the region, you can also look at the individual counties themselves. And then you can also take a look at this snapshot by each month. And if you just want an average of all the months that are reported in this, you just hit here, the click to show all values, and then it's reporting all the months. Okay. And then this right here is the applications from churn for selected counties, and this is broken out by counties, consortia, and across time from about 2011 till 2017. And if you go to the next tab, you'll see this same graph that's right here, but then it's also compared against the application volume. So the applications from churn volume shows you the percentage change in applications received between 2012 and 2017 compared to the first reporting quarter. So if I toggle this over, you can see that this is the first reporting quarter, and then it's reporting that change from the first quarter. Okay, now we're going to move on to the scatter plots. So the application from churn scatter plots, it shows it by region. So you can highlight the region right here. And so say we wanted to look at, let's look at Sacramento area. We're going to do keep only for this. So this shows you the percent applications on CalFresh in the previous 90 days right here on the top half. And then it shows it the percent applications on CalFresh in the previous 30 days in the bottom half. And this is also going to show you the trend lines. And you can also hover your mouse over each of the counties to just see what their rates look like. And then these last two tabs in the churn file are going to talk about the average days to approve benefits. This is also going to appear in the application outcomes. And then we also have the days between notice of expiration and recertification outlined as well. So now I'm going to jump out of this and we're going to go into the application outcomes. So let me go to the first tab here. Once it's done thinking. Okay, so right here we can see the application outcomes over time. And what I'm going to do is, if I can see it, I want to expand this to make it full screen. So you can see from July 2016 to November 2017, you can see the percentage of applications that were approved, withdrawn, denied because they were ineligible, and denied because they were procedural. And if you also notice, this is a trend in throughout this whole visualization tool, is that things that are more of things that need to be addressed, and things that should be looked closer into are going to have more of a hot color. So like orange, like this one is right here. Okay, now I'm going to move on over to the application outcomes over time for select counties. So this one I selected the big six: Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange, Sac, San Diego, and Los Angeles. And you can actually see in May 2017, when you toggle over this, you'll start noticing that there is a drop-off in the approved applications. So it's just a trend to note, and again, that's something that would require more digging into. Then we have our maps. So this is the map of California for the approval rate. Then we also have the procedural denial rate on the right. And you can do a zoom in function on here. You can also zoom in right here. If you want to reset, just click the home button. And if there's a certain area that you want to zoom in, you can do that right here. Okay. And now I'm going to move on over to the monthly impact estimates. And this is a really important tab because it shows that if a quarter of all procedural denials were approved instead, what would be the estimated average monthly impact for households? So, these are the kind of things that can make a huge difference in people's lives. And so, yeah, this is just another metric to kind of break that out. And then here we have our online applications. So it shows the percentage applications that were submitted online. And again, you can customize this by consortia, county size, region, county. And this is really important because we're doing a new push for online applications just to make things more convenient and easier for people to access. Okay, now I'm going to hop out of this one and I'm going to go to the last one, which is discontinuance. make that full screen. So this first graph that we see here, this goes over the cases that were discontinued in the month. And then the second graph is going to show the monthly percentage change in cases compared to the prior month. And you can toggle that over that and see the difference. And this is a really important one on the discontinuance detail state. So if you take a look, the blue here, it shows that about a third of all discontinuances are rescinded in the following month. And it also gives an explanation. Well, it has the 5 categories for discontinuances, but a third of all discontinuances are rescinded in the following month, and then about another 10% that I show here in the light blue have benefits restored. And then the last tab I'm going to highlight is another fun interactive map, and this shows the percentage of cases that are discontinued by individual county and by size of the county. So again, you also have the search bar, and then you also have the zoom in function. And that completes the portion of my presentation. So I'm going to pass this back over to Jen.
Thanks, April. And get it onto my screen. So thank you. Next, we have Patrick Delaney, who's the CDSS Research Services Bureau, and he's going to talk about the new CalFresh data dashboard tools on the CDSS website.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Patrick Delaney. I'm with CDSS Research Services Branch, and I'm here just to give you kind of a basic overview of our CalFresh County dashboard, kind of what it is, where you can find it, and how to use it, as well as introduce a couple new features that we're excited to tell you about. So I'm actually going to step out of the PowerPoint for a second and show you first things first, like where you can access the dashboard and how to get it. You get a lot of questions on that.
Patrick, I'm going to give you the screen.
Perfect.
Are you working from April's computer?
Yes. Okay, so it should be my screen now. So for me, the easiest way to get to the dashboard, which is hosted on our CDSS research website or public-facing site, is just open up a tab and you can type in either cdss.ca.gov/research. And under the CalFresh icon with a bag of groceries there, you'll see a link directly to the CalFresh data dashboard. But honestly, what I catch myself doing most to get to the dashboard site is I just go to Google and type in CalFresh County Dashboard. And that's easiest because the very top link on that result will take you right to the dashboard page. But either way works. So once you're here, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's just one link telling you what date was the last time that we updated the dashboard, just to make sure you know it's got the most up-to-date information in it. And it's just a single Excel link here. So let's click on the word Excel, open, and wait. Okay, so this is very important. When you first open up the Excel file, Excel will want to prompt you and warn you that, this could be a hazardous file full of nasty viruses. We promise you it's not, so you want to make sure you take care of this yellow bar at the top here by clicking the Enable Editing button. Otherwise, it won't work and you won't be able to navigate through the dashboard. So once I've done that, I'm taken right to just the main kind of control panel page here of the dashboard. You can see we've kind of organized the data for you in kind of main categorical buckets here. So we're working just from left to right on the home page here. We've got demographic information, both about your CalFresh caseload specifically and also just your overall county population. We've got participation trends, so this is just basic statistics about enrollments, households, persons, that kind of thing. Timeliness and accuracy trends, so here you're going to find your error rates and your approval processing rates. And then churn, so you got research churn and total churn. We also give you access to the raw data tables. So instead of using our kind of pre-packaged visualizations, sometimes we get a lot of requests for people to access. They just want the raw spreadsheet data, so they can take it out of the dashboard and put it into their own, software for their own more specific purposes. So we can give you access to the raw tables here, broken out by how frequently we collect the data element. And then finally, on the far right, we just give you some kind of helpful links to documents, like a getting started one here on the top right, just tells you kind of how to use the dashboard and navigate it. Other supporting documentation like definitions and sources, FAQ, and that kind of thing. So that's the main menu. And just to give you a sense of the general layout of most of the charts contained in the dashboard, I'm going to click on, say, CalFresh Persons Monthly here in the participation trends category. So it shoots you right to kind of a bar chart page. And the beauty of these charts is that they're very customizable. So you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, you get kind of a stack of menus here where I can select my county, I can select my year, and then the specific month you want to look at. So say I want to look at Alameda and Contra Costa. You can pick as many counties as you want. I don't recommend picking all 58, it gets pretty messy. You can pick more than one by just holding down the control key and just clicking, as you go down the list. And it automatically populates the chart in the center of the screen with whatever you select on the left. Pick my year, and I want to look at the first quarter of that calendar year. So automatically it just pops up bar chart of CalFresh persons enrolled in each county. Each county gets its own bar with a little legend here in the bottom left here telling you who's who. So that's kind of the general kind of template for most of these charts. Again, we'll check out active error rate, for example. This is same style, make your selections going down the left-hand side of the screen, and it will automatically populate the chart for you. So I can pick some counties there. Something new we wanted to show off is we just added recently the total applications and online applications items. These are directly off of the CF296 report. So this is nothing really new. It's just data we've already been publishing. We just put it into the dashboard now. You'll notice it looks a lot like the other pages. It's just the same layout. Make your selections. And the top chart is total applications received during the month. Bottom line chart is online applications received during the month. So we just want to let you know that's a new item that we just added this week. And you can always get back to the main menu by just going to the top right here, or top left, clicking on Return to Main Menu. Something else we wanted to show off was the dual program participation here under the participation trend section. So you click on that and it'll take you to kind of another menu. And this is mostly Medi-Cal, CalFresh dual participation. But we've also recently added a WIC and CalFresh participation piece because there's been a lot of interest around that lately. So I'll show that. And again, same layout. Make your selections down the left. I want to compare Humboldt and Inyo for some random reason, and it just does it for me right there. Notice that some of these elements are monthly, some of them are annual, some of them are quarterly. There's a little bit of everything going on here. We try to be as kind of explicit as possible, kind of in the window and documenting what you're looking at. So here it's in the chart title, page title, and all that stuff. Another thing we wanted to mention was that under the CalFresh caseload demographics page, you can see you get 4 different data elements. You get your CalFresh children, CalFresh child-only households, your ESL population, and elderly population, again, all specific to your CalFresh caseload. This child-only households element, currently we give it to you just as an annual estimate, but we're working on right now, making that a monthly measure, so you can have much more specific data just for that particular element. So look for that coming soon. Geomaps. That's another popular item here. So if you go to the far right section on the main menu, look at the geomaps, again, you get taken to another kind of secondary menu where you can see all the different specific maps related to different aspects of the CalFresh program. So for example, I'll click on the PRI. You can look at PRI either at the county level, for example, or at the zip code level if you want to. And these links do require access to the internet, so I'll shoot you out to a web page. It can take a second to load. And here you go. So this is a kind of a county by county look at PRI, and you can see the different shading is explained by the legend here on the left-hand side. So our darker counties have a higher PRI value, and you can click on any county. I think that's Sacramento, and when you click on the county, it brings a little pop-up menu of some more detailed demographics about that county and some poverty-related statistics and other things we think are relevant to the CalFresh program. So again, it's an interactive, just visual way to look at your data and help to prompt, some questions about your program if you want. So let me go back to the dashboard. And again, we've got about 7 maps here. So they're all the very similar layout, they'll shoot you to a web page where you can make kind of interactive selections and zoom in and out and get to more detailed data by county. Okay, so, and again, we've got a GeoMaps how-to guide as well if you want to just some further help in how to navigate those maps. So you go back to the main menu. I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys today about the dashboard. Again, to get to it, you can just Google CalFresh County Dashboard and it'll pop up as your first link. We try to let you know when it was last updated. You can click here for details in the top menu. So you can look, oh, just the other day we gave you new participation data and new timeliness data. So if you have any questions about it, we can do it at the end. So thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. That was a really helpful overview of the dashboard. And I think now we are at the Q&A portion of the webinar. So I'm going to take the screen. And Diana, do you want to read the questions? I can't see them while I'm on my presenter screen. But I think Caitlin had a question about the SAR-7 and the QR for the recertification information.
Yeah, well, so there are a bunch of questions with folks asking if we'll be sharing the PowerPoint and a recording, and the answer is yes to both. There was a question from Caitlin about, the question says, does churn data include SAR-7 and recerts or just recerts? So there's, largely the answer to that question is just recerts. The data that is in the churn reports that CDSS has collected to date were specific to recertifications. The only thing that's different about that is when you look at the the dashboards that I shared from the food bank at those impact estimates, we did do a sort of back of the envelope calculation there, and it's spelled out in the description on those impact estimates, where we assumed that sort of recognizing that recert is only a portion of the opportunity to churn, and that SAR-7s are another opportunity to churn. And so those estimates of the impact of reducing churn, I think we'd multiplied it by 2. I can't remember, but it's spelled out there. kind of what we assumed the impact would be. So in other words, if you're make an effort to reduce churn that would potentially benefit both SAR7 and research, then it should be reflected there. Brian, I don't know if you want to talk about, the question says, are there plans to include SAR7s at some point? I don't know if this is a good time to mention the churn report development.
Yeah, thanks, Diana. All of the churn data that we're driving the visualizations we talked through today come from a direct request that we make every quarter of the consortia. I think many of you know that we've been developing a monthly churn report, the CF18. It is in its final stages. We're hoping to have that launched by July 1 is what I keep telling everyone. I hope that's right. But very, very soon, if not July 1, we will have the CF18 churn report. And that'll be a little bit different from what we've collected. It's mostly what we've seen out of our consortia request, but this one will be a little more expanded data. It's also going to have our ADP, average days to process, all in one spot. And that one will have SAR7 and research churn in there. So it'll be a little bit broader look at churn, and we'll start probably give us 2 quarters of validating that as those new reports come in, and you'll start seeing all of that hit the website as well, and we'll start migrating some of this viz work. We'll have to migrate to the new churn data as well, but right now it's all being driven off of consortia data.
Great. There are a couple more questions coming in. One question is, are there any places where we can see college student enrollments in CalFresh? Brian, I don't know of any, but Brian, maybe you do?
No, that's not a variable that's explicitly collected right now. We get a lot of requests for college student-specific data, and it's not one of the variables that we currently collect in any of our reports.
There's another question that says, this is from Claudia Macias. It says, I mostly do online applications. Can we customize it to ourselves for our office to find out our own approval rate? So all the data that you're seeing here, like the source data, is aggregate source data at the county level. So you wouldn't be able to drill down into that unless you were to. And Claudia, I'm sorry, I don't know what organization you're from, but the county, the only way you'd be able to do that potentially would be through the county, and that would depend on how they were, if they were able in their systems to track applications that were coming specifically from your office.
Yeah, individual counties might be able to do that. We at the state level don't have access to that level of data, so we're truly using the state aggregate data that comes into us.
There's another question asking about whether there's an option to compare timeliness between online applications versus in-person applications. That's a great idea. The existing monthly state reports don't break the aggregate numbers don't break things out that way. So it would have to be a request to the county, or CDSS would have to, if CDSS were reworking that report, they might consider breaking those things out or do an ad hoc request to all the counties for that information.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and we're just now starting to build out our resources for online applications, knowing that is sort of the wave of the future for the way our counties interact with our clients. Many counties are actively promoting their web interface instead of calling or coming in. Sacramento County always says, click, call, come in that order. So knowing that that's where we're headed as a state, we're trying to really build up our reporting of that. We share that information back. So look for more of that to come, and I think that's a great idea to start being able to crosswalk some of that. So over the next several months, we plan to increase the way that we share our online application data.
There's another question here that says, what is the definition of a procedural denial? Brian, do you want to take that, or do you want me to do it?
If you have a more official definition than what I have, I don't think we have off the top of my head an official definition. I'm trying to think how that comes out of the system and the reports. I'll give kind of a loose definition, and then a procedural denial, the way denials are reported, the data for that all comes out of the CF-296 monthly reports, and in those reports, any application that has an official disposition, so in other words, applications that are no longer pending, are broken out into 4 categories. They're either approved, they were withdrawn, they're denied for ineligibility, or denied for procedural reasons. So my understanding is just big picture that denied for ineligibility means that you completed all the application, you completed all the information, and then you were determined to be ineligible. Let's say your income is too high, or that kind of thing. The denied for procedural reasons is because there's some piece of the application process that didn't that was sort of procedurally not completed. So, for example, maybe there's a missed interview, or there were verifications requested that were never provided. So that said, if you look at the link to the original reports to the CalFresh data tables, there's each of those data tables includes a link to the report instructions, and so the official definition and how it's described in those instructions would be there. Another question is, what are the data sources used to complete the dashboard? Let's see. If we can look at the presentation, let's see, who's presenting right now? Is that you, Jen?
Yeah, that's me.
Jen, can you go back to the slide that shows the data sources? Oh, next one. Yeah,
Got it?
okay, and then, yeah, just go forward a little bit so it shows what they look like. There we go. So all of the reports that you saw today from all of the different types of dashboards, the data all comes from the publicly available CDSS data on these 2 websites, CalFresh Data Tables, CalFresh Resource Center data page. And when you get the presentation, those green titles there are linked. Although again, I will say, like Patrick mentioned, he goes to Google. I do that too. If you go to Google and you put in CalFresh data table, you will get to the data table. Each of these, those sort of sublinks, where, for example, where it says CF-296, when you see the data tables list, when these aren't live links here, but when you click on those links, you'll get and you can see the Excel file that has all the raw data. Okay, then there's a question that says, I may have missed this part. What's the most recent year used for data for both tools? So I can answer for the food banks tool. We have let's see, it might depend on the report. In each dashboard, it will say when the most recent date is that we refreshed the data from the CDSS website. So since that's a process that takes a little bit of time to do, we're not doing it constantly in real time. So usually on the first, in this one, Jen, it's all the way to the right, like the last tab of this one says definitions and sources. And so this includes information about what kinds of definitions we're using. And then I think if you scroll down here, it'll show what the sources are and data files last updated. So in this version, our data files were last updated March 2018. And so we're going to try to refresh them as often as we can. Patrick, do you know, the same is true for the ones that April was showing, is that they'll always include a most recent refresh. Patrick, do you know how frequently the dashboard is updated?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the measure, but we try to present the most recent monthly data. And according to our kind of standard release schedule of our reports. So we're in early June, so that means we've just posted April data. And you can see when you open up the CalFresh dashboard, there's a little kind of link on the main menu where it says CalFresh dashboard, and then it'll say updated, and then it'll give a date, click here for details. So you literally click there, and we try to give you kind of a version control, so you know each date and then what item was updated in that release. So again, it just depends on the measure, because we have, like I said, we have monthly, quarterly, annual data, and sometimes just point-in-time data, all contained in the same file. So it just depends on the measure. But for the monthly data, it's within like a month and a half to 2 months. And annual data just depends. Some of the annual data is based on census data, which is, I want to say September of every year. Some of it is, internal SURFRA data, so that is like a quarterly thing. So it just kind of depends, but we're always trying to be transparent with what we've just released and what's new about the dashboard.
Great. Let's see, just going through, there's a lot of questions. This is great. There's a question about how does the use of Get CalFresh get measured? I'm not sure that it's specifically that, at least in the data tables that are posted online, there's not a specific Get CalFresh, but I believe that those, when you look at the summaries of applications that are submitted online, Get CalFresh applications are among those applications that are submitted online.
That's correct.
That's right. And then there's a question about whether homelessness is a variable that's collected. Not that I know of. Patrick, or Brian, do you know otherwise?
No, that's, I'm just racking my brain. I don't believe that's one of the variables on any of our CalFresh reports.
Not to my knowledge either.
Yeah, we're all shaking our head no.
Okay, I've got another question here that says, this is asking about how Tableau Reader pulls the data from CDSS. Let's see, I'm trying to decide how much detail to go into. So the CalFresh data tables that we showed that are like where CDSS hosts the Excel files and the data dashboard, those files are all pulled into like a data repository. So we refresh that as often as we can. And then Tableau looks at that repository in order to do the data visualizations. So when you pull down and then when we post it, it creates an extract of the data that's actually used that's currently being visualized. So when you pull down the file from the website, if you wanted to open it in Tableau Reader, you would get, it would come with the extract. It would come with the extract of the data that's visualized there. I think the most important thing to understand about it is the Tableau Reader data is the same data that's available on the website, like as of the date that it was last refreshed. So it's not, Tableau Reader's not creating anything new beyond what's posted by CDSS. Let's see, just looking at other questions here. I think we've already answered some of these. Oh, there's a question about whether we can provide margins of error on the PRI estimate. That's a good question. I know in the past, in past versions that I've done at the food bank, we've done the calculations using the census data to get some margins of error, and we did not include that in the sort of updated version here in Tableau. It is possible to get, I know Research Services Bureau has some of the information about margins of error, at least on the census, like on the on some pieces of the PRI, but I haven't been able to pull that into Tableau, and I'm not sure it's in the plan at the moment. If there's particular counties where folks want to know, you can certainly send me an email and I can see if I can find out.
And I think the raw PRI data, I've seen those intervals listed with the raw data. I've never seen it with our mapped data. So I think it's possible if you were to dig into the source data to get at that, but we just haven't mapped it that way.
Oh, that's a question. Patrick, do you know if you look at the, one thing you didn't show on the dashboard is how you can look at the raw data tables? Do you know, is margin of error in there?
No, not currently. It's not something, like Brian said, it's not something we put into production pieces involving PRI, but I can speak with Vinolum and see if there's a way we can present that or how best to display that going forward.
Great. There's another question here about whether immigration status would be under procedural denial. I would think that if an applicant, like if a household were denied because it was determined that they were not eligible for CalFresh due to their immigration status, then that would be considered denied for ineligibility.
Yeah, it's not procedural.
In some circumstances, I can imagine three scenarios. One would be that. The second would be if someone decided to withdraw their application because of nervousness around immigration status, then that would be, if they officially withdrew, it would be a withdrawal. If they sort of got cold feet in the midst of an application process and then left the application sort of to languish, then it could be considered a procedural denial because from the perspective of the county, they would look like some verifications weren't provided or they never completed their interview. So I think depending on how it played out, it could show up in any place. There's a question about whether ABOD participants are a variable that we're collecting.
Going forward, they will be. We don't currently have ABODs in our reports, but they will be. That's something the consortia have been working to get into the system. So when ABODs become a thing this fall, we will have the reporting in place for that.
Okay, I think that's all the questions so far. We have a few more minutes. We can wait and see if there are any other questions. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of questions about how various sort of household characteristics layer on to these other metrics. So, for example, how does timeliness relate to whether you were an online application, or how does immigration status relate to procedural denials? So that's sort of an interesting thing for us all to be thinking about, whether there's ways that we can capture some of those things and understand better how these metrics vary across household types or application source. There's a question here: what would it take for a homelessness variable to be collected? I mean, I One question I have is, and so I don't know the answer about whether, about how the various consortia systems currently capture a household homeless, like whether a household is homeless or not. So there's a question on the front end of like whether that information is being collected in a way, like in a consistent way, across consortia and across counties. So it may be the case that that would be the first question is, you know, whether the county is collecting that information in the first place, in which case you might be able to get that summarized at the county level. It's a separate question of what it would take for that information to be reported to CDSS.
Yeah, my sense is that is not consistently done across 58 counties. Anecdotally, there are ways to get at it and looking at mailing address and things like that, but there isn't a consistent methodology for pulling homeless data into this. It does not show up, to my knowledge, on our state reports that come up to us from the county, although there could be a way within querying the consortia to pull that data out. We just don't have a clear picture of that at the state level.
Great. There's another question here about, it says, I don't see PRI data on the geomaps for Alameda, although there is data available in the dashboard. Do we know why?
Not off the top of my head.
That's a good question.
But we will look at that.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Patrick, do you know, is Alameda's, I know Alameda has had some data missing on other reports, not on PRI in recent months, but is, because if I'm getting PRI data on Alameda, it would be coming from the data dashboard. So that's something we'll look into.
Yeah, there was a lot missing from Alameda for a little while, but to my knowledge, most of that should have been uploaded and corrected once we got access to that. But there was a gap for quite a while on Alameda. But I think, as of, I think the end of last year, that should have been updated. So we'll look into it.
Another question, so this is back to the student enrollment data. Denny Breed says, I was able to receive college student enrollment data from my local county social services contact. So I'm thinking it must be collected somewhere in the system. Denny, it sounds like you might know more than we do on that, unless you guys at CDSS know more.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of stuff that the consortia and individual counties can access that we don't at the state level. So we have access to what comes up from the counties via the state reports, but there's so much that's still in the consortia that we don't see. We don't have access to it, so unless we specifically query certain variables out on a one-off or ad hoc basis, we don't see it. So I believe that individual counties could go in and query that out for ad hoc reporting. We just don't have it at the state level. But I agree, it's something that we are actively pursuing getting our hands on.
So if I could just jump in for a second, I just pulled up the PRI map for all counties, and I'm seeing Alameda's PRI in there. So it should be there, both in the dashboard and in the geo map. I'm not sure who asked that.
Okay.
But make sure you're looking at the right map, maybe. There's a few. And you click on your county, and then when the pop-up menu comes up, you scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a line that just says PRI. So it should be there.
Great.
Patrick, do you want to show that on your screen?
Sure. Okay.
Do we have presenter?
Yeah, so I think everyone's seeing my screen now. Yeah, so I went to the GeoMaps menu, and I'll go Program for each index, county level. I think I already have it, yeah. So when it pops up, you zoom in, find Alameda, just click on Alameda. When this menu pops up, just scroll all the way down, and there it is, kind of at the last statistic there, 66.
Great. We'll see if there's any other questions. Oh, wait, here. How are the child-only household estimates calculated?
I know that's meds data that we get from FDRAB, but in terms of the specific A codes they're using to determine that, I don't know off the top of my head, but
Child only CalFresh?
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know it comes in on the report, but off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, we can follow up with that.
Any other questions? I would add, I assume this is true for the CDSS folks as well, but I'll speak for the food bank. If folks are going and trying to use the dashboard that we developed, if you're having, if you have questions or just need a little help figuring out how to download it properly or, save whatever images you want to save, please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to get on the phone. And, mostly we just want folks to be able to make good use of this stuff. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I think that's all of our questions.
Thanks, Diana, and thank you to all of our presenters today. I appreciate everyone's patience as we worked out some of the details, and I think we were able to get through the material and show all the different kind of clicks and steps that you need to see the data. And we look forward to hearing from you about if this data is useful, how you end up using it in your county, and what it ends up telling you in terms of encouraging and supporting CalFresh access in your community. So thank you again to our presenters and our participants for all of your questions. We will be sending out the slideshow and the webinar shortly, and please do continue to ask questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.